Welcome to myosh mobile app webinar.
We're going to go through how to download, how to configure, and how to use the app. We will look at some of the modules so that we can get some idea of what the app is trying to represent, but we're not going to go into every single module. So to start off with, over on the left-hand side, I've got my phone. If we just have a look at the App Store, this is on an iPhone, obviously. This is what the app actually looks like. It's a free app, you can download it. Now, I say free, there is a caveat to free. If you're an existing customer and you don't have the app, we have to retrofit the app into your organization. If you're a classic customer, this takes about half an hour. If you're a custom customer, it takes about an hour. For any new customers, the app is part of whatever it is you take within myosh. Now, once you've downloaded the app, we're just looking at this rather unspectacular Word document here. On the left-hand side, what we've got in here is the configuration that you need to do. This is a one-time configuration. If you have a look at your URL that you use in myosh, so if we just quickly click on one of those, the URL is this thing up here. You'll notice that at the end of it, there's menu.nsf. Now, if we look at the phone, all that we've done in this server field here is we've chopped off that menu.nsf. So that's all you need to do in order to get the phone to point to your environment. So whatever your environment is, you type exactly the same in here, chop off the menu.nsf, enter your name, enter the password that you normally use, and you log in. It's as simple as that. Now we'll look at the app itself. Now, the app is available on any phone. It's available on any tablet, and it's available online and offline. The idea behind the app, the philosophy behind the app, is that what we should be doing is encouraging people to log things in the field. So typically in an organization that doesn't have myosh or doesn't have the app, what you might be doing in the field is logging an incident report on a piece of paper, logging a hazard on a piece of paper, having to take that back to the office at the end of the day, or even potentially if you've had a near miss or something like that, trying to rely on your memory when you get back to the office later on. Now, what you need to understand here is that we are not trying to give you an app that does a full-on investigation on a phone. That's not what it was designed for. So if we have a look at some of these modules, first and foremost, My Activities. What My Activities is a list of the things that have been sent to your phone. You can click on any of these, open them up, and deal with them. The things that typically get sent to you as activities are inspections and, depending on who you are, actions. These are because they've been assigned to you for you to do something with. You don't get sent as an activity an inspection. You can log an inspection and you can read an inspection, but you don't expect to manage the inspection on the phone. So any of these My Activities I can click on, I can open the documents, and in this case it's an inspection. I can scroll through the inspection and I can do the inspection on the phone and submit it. We'll come back to this a moment later. We go back to that menu again. If we look at, say, actions, all of these will follow the same pattern. If I click on actions and open the list of actions, here's a list of current actions. Now, the things that you can see on the phone will rely upon the level of access that you have in myosh. So if you've got custom myosh and you've set someone up as a site reader or a site editor, and all that they can see is things relating to their site, then the only things they can see on the phone are going to be things that relate to their site. In Classic, it's different because you don't have those sets of access controls. You only have user, power, and admin. It means you can see everything, but you can't go and edit them. You can go and have a look at them, but you can't edit them. If you want to create something new, we're currently in a list of actions. And obviously, if I wanted to open one up, I could just click on the link and it would open it up. But if I want to create a new one, there's a little plus sign up in the top right-hand corner. And all that I need to do is click on that plus sign, and it enables me to now create a new action. So I'd fill in the details, take some photographs, submit the documents, and the action would go off. If we have a look at hazards, now hazards has a sort of a special case, because what I'm able to do with a hazard is I'm able to create either a full hazard or a quick hazard. And this is worthwhile just having a look at the hazards module while we do this. So first and foremost, what I'm going to do is create the second one, a quick hazard. Now, a quick hazard is for people who, possibly like me, people who aren't safety specialists, don't really know what to do with the hazard, but they need to report it. And in order to encourage them to report it, we don't give them an awful lot to do. So if we click on quick hazard, what we've got here is about 5 fields. So we select the accountable person, and these names are configured by you in the configuration section. An administrator on your site would set these up. So we'll choose to send this off to John. A brief description. For those of you who've been on previous webinars where I've presented, you'll know that my typing, be it on a keyboard or on a phone, is terrible. So I cheat a bit, and here I've got some text replace. So what we've got here is a brief description is the roof canopy is leaking. What type of hazard is it? Well, scroll up a bit and we'll say it's an environmental hazard. What's the consequence of this hazard? Now, the consequence might not be terribly great. We've got a list. It comes from your matrix. Let's say there could be a major consequence, but the likelihood might not be great, so maybe unlikely. Now that I've filled that in, what I might want to do is take some photographs. So I'll use my camera and we'll take a photograph of what we're doing here. Use the photo, there it is. And what we'll do is submit that document. Let's have a look. But I do see it's actually come through. So now what's happened is this has now come through to me on my hazard document as a roof canopy leaking. And notifications have now gone out to whomever it is that is configured to receive those hazard notifications. Now, if you were out in the middle of nowhere and had no access to the internet, obviously the notifications would not have gone out. They would be held on the phone until such time as you went back into the myosh app in an area where you were connected to the internet. And then notifications would be sent out. So there's no concern about the fact that if you're working away from the internet, that these notifications or these documents that you create on the phone are not going to be created in myosh. They always will be. If we go back into hazards and we click on the little plus sign in the top right-hand corner again, there's not only a quick hazard, but there's a full hazard. So if you are a safety person, what you're able to do is not just create the little short hazard, you're actually able to effectively investigate the hazard while you're creating it. So you've got things like hazard classifications, you've got the hazard treatment section. There's an awful lot more to it than just creating a short hazard. Incidents, the same sort of thing. You can review any of the incidents that are available. Here's one, electrical shock causing burns. So we can review this particular incident. And again, if we want to create a new one, click on the plus sign. Now, because incidents are a lot more complex than hazards, it does require you to add a little bit more information, a brief description, some details of the incident, any temporary controls that you might have added in, but that's about it. Then you select the supervisor at the bottom who's been pre-configured by you and send it to them to investigate. Now, the other thing that it will do is if you try to submit it without completing mandatory fields, it won't let you. It simply doesn't allow this. So until such time as you have completed all of the mandatory fields in a document, you can't send this off to anybody. And this is exactly the same as logging an incident or a hazard or any other document on a PC, with the mandatory fields, forcing you to complete mandatory fields before submitting. Now, a couple of modules that are a little more complex than others certainly deserve an extra mention. One is inspections. Now, we have done a webinar on inspections before, but it's worthwhile repeating this. If we go and have a look, in the background at the inspections module. What you're able to do is you're able to create templates. These templates are what you run on your phone when doing an inspection. So these templates have been created, and inside these templates, there are questions. The questions have been set up by an administrator. The colors to the answers to the questions have been configured, and you fire off these either at one time or scheduling them on an ongoing basis to whomever it is you want to send this inspection to. So in this case, we've got a workplace general inspection. It's going over to Jackson Pollock, and it's a weekly audit. And what this person is going to see is an inspection on their inspections list, which they can then click and open, and they can then do the inspection. But if you want to create an inspection of your own, you can do that, and what you get as a list of templates on the phone is the same list of templates that's on the PC or on the server, created by your administrator. So you will only be able to create inspections that have been provided for you by someone managing those templates or worksheets. And again, it's not terribly difficult. If we select one of these, maybe a light vehicle audit, what we've got is a series of questions. The questions are all pre-configured. The colors to the answers are all pre-configured. You can type in observations. You can take photographs per question. You can log new actions as a result of maybe a non-conformance that came out of the questions. And when you're finished, you can submit the entire audit or inspection. Now, the last item that we've got here that I want to talk about anyway, because there is a difference, of course, between Classic and Custom. There always is. Classic comes with a standard set of modules, and the standard set is actions, hazards, incidents, inspections, and safety observations and documents. I say it's a standard set. Clearly, if you don't have documents or safety observations or inspections, you're not going to see the modules. Actions, hazards, and incidents, pretty much everyone gets. But as soon as you select these additional modules, you get them on your phone. When it comes to custom, I wouldn't say we can give you absolutely everything, because there are technical aspects to what we can put on the phone. But I've added one here called Take 5, Think 10. It's a sample. It's not something that we would really recommend you use. It's sort of hard-coded, but it's just to give you the idea that you can put pretty much anything onto a custom version of the app, provided that technically it's possible. The last one I want to talk about, though, is this documents module. Now, this is quite cool, because if you have the documents module in myosh, which we'll just open over here, you can load up all of your safe work procedures, your emergency drills, whatever you want, and you can then synchronize them with your phone. So if I were to go into the top one up there, codes of practice, and I were to say, okay, I've got 2 of them. At the top there, you can see the little ticks next to fire and evacuation and confined space. And these little icons here say, you haven't got them yet, but you can download them. So if I want to see how to manage and control asbestos, I can click on it, and what it does is it loads it up onto my phone. And now there's a tick next to it. And now if I go out into the bush and I am cut off from the internet, I can still read those documents. And what I can also do once I've finished reading the document is, if I don't want it on my phone anymore, I can delete it. This doesn't delete the document in myosh, it just deletes it off your phone. And the way to, if you're going to test this, the way to test it is to put your phone into flight mode and make sure that you can still see these documents. And the same, incidentally, would be true of being able to log actions, hazards, and incidents, and any of the others that you've got. You'll be able to log them when you're offline.
Okay, Tom did ask, can you show us the Take 5?
I can. It's fairly straightforward, and as I say, this has been hard-coded, so it doesn't have the templated design that inspections has, where you can create your own. But if need be, we could create something like this. This was just created as a quick example. There is also a school of thought. I've spoken to a number of safety people who work in the field, and I know what a Take 5 booklet looks like. So I know that to whip out a Take 5 booklet and quickly tick a few fields is a lot quicker than opening up the myosh app and typing in with your thumbs information about what you're going to be doing, especially if you have to do multiple things all the time. But the benefit of this, of course, is that if you do complete these online and then submit them, then you've got something that's already recorded. It's in myosh already, and you can run reports about how many people did Take 5s in what area, etc., etc. So in this case, it's these are standard questions. What task am I going to be doing? Do I have the required skills? So you're asking a number of questions and thinking about what you can possibly do to be safe doing the things that you're about to do. It's really straightforward. It's based on standard Take 5s, but it's taken from a particular customer who asked us to put this in very quickly.
Okay. When is the signature field coming, Nigel?
Yes, the signature field, I'd have to ask, because currently on my test environments, I already have one. Down the bottom, yes, here it is in inspections. So it's already available. I'll just have to find out when it's going to be made permanently available and in what modules. I think I mentioned this in the webinar in inspections. It's going to be made available there, even though technically it doesn't really need to be there because you have a digital signature of the person saving the document. But if the person asking the question would like to be a little more specific about where it needs to be, I can answer that question specifically once I've spoken to the developers.
Okay, this question comes from a gentleman called Gunter, who I believe we met in New Zealand. And he asks, is this software app also available in other languages like Chinese, German, etc.?
Again, it depends on the version of the software that you're potentially using. So if you were using the custom version of myosh, that can be translated into multiple languages. And whatever the myosh itself is translated into, the app gets translated as well. If you're in Classic, Classic is kind of designed for small companies that don't typically have an international presence. So if you were working in Germany or you were working in China, we could potentially have a Classic version in those languages, which would mean that the app was in that language too. But we don't have Classic as something where you can have multiple languages.
Okay. Tom has said, we've had some issues in the past with the app due to data input errors in the creation of templates. If there is errors, or if there are errors in the data format in the template, then the app will no longer work. Can we set the system so that if there is a format error, the template cannot be submitted?
I'd have to come back to you on that. It's just beyond my ability to answer you.
Okay, well, we'll do that, as we always do. Kim asked, is the 1 hour of setup time per user license? Who wants to use the app?
No, it's just a 1 hour setup time. It's just 1 hour to set it up. That's it.
Everyone, yeah.
And after that, it's free.
Okay, Adrian asks, how do I know what the address is for my company?
The address for your company is when you switch on myosh, there will be a URL at the top of your screen. So that's how you log into myosh. When you log in your details, so what you'll get is a screen something like this, and when you click login, it will take you to whatever page it is that you happen to be working on. And at the top of that page, your address will be there.
Okay.
And typically, if it's a custom version, it will say Dialor with a 3-letter code. And if it's a classic version, it will say something like My2 or My3 or Prod My2 or Prod My3, something like that. You just copy that.
Yeah, he's actually put the URL in here in the question panel, and he just needs to remove that menu.nsf.
That's correct. So what you need to do is remove the menu. You can also remove the little slash at the end there. It doesn't really matter if you don't, but if you take just that is effectively what you put in the text, and that's the address of the server.
Mark has asked, I'm missing the first minute of the webinar. Can we get access to this updated app now? If so, how do I connect to it?
As far as I know, there's only one app.
Mark, there's a link to the website myosh.com mobile in the chat section at the start of the webinar. That's where you download the app and then you configure it using that URL if it has been configured for your system.
Yeah, I think if you've got something else, I'm thinking back now, this might be historical. There were other versions of the app. I think the thing to do really is delete the old version off your phone and just download the new version.
And Mark also says, I thought you had a signature part on the app.
Yes, well, as I said, it's only in inspections, and I will have to find out. The technology is available. It's just about rolling that technology out, and I just have to find out exactly when that's going to occur.
Okay, Tom's going to discuss the Take 5 as a module with you tomorrow, Nigel.
Right.
Trina says, could you show us again how to log on to the mobile?
What you've got to do is add in, this little icon here is a server icon. So it's basically pointing you to where the server is. And again, what I've removed is that / and menu.nsf. I've then added my name, the normal name that you log on with every time you log into myosh, and your normal password. And the moment that you select that, it will retrieve your credentials. It'll know what level of access you have, and it'll put the information up on the screen for you. So if I just add in my password, so I'm logged in as Richie Rich, and I'll just type in Richie's password, and it logs in. Now, when it logs in, incidentally, you can see that little arrow going round and round. If I click on the menu, and I want to go and look at the menu, it sometimes drops me out of the menu. And the reason that it's doing that is because what it does is it preloads the My Activities screen. So as the myosh app opens, instead of you sitting there with nothing to look at for, 20 seconds, what it does is it preloads the list of things that it sent you to do. It might not have anything on there because you might not have been sent anything to do. But if you have, you can get on with doing it while it loads the rest of the app. And down the bottom, when it says up to date, you can then click on that little menu icon over on the top left, and it will take you to this area. But if you try and open this and it springs you back to My Activities, it's just that it's still busy loading that menu. It's not broken.
Okay, June Tapley, who is a wonderful support person at myosh, has this to say. She just said, Tom had this specific error yesterday. I think this is about the app crashing. And it was because they had not set up the template correctly. They had questions, but with no scores. So that caused the app to break. So now thank you, June. Ash has said, can you give an example of how you would implement associated actions?
Yes. So, for example, if you were inside an incident report, what we might be doing is, in fact, what I'll do is I'll go and look at my activities first and see what I've been assigned to do. So I click on my activities. I've got a couple of inspections here that have been assigned to me. I'll go in and have a look at this one here, this light vehicle one. And as you scroll through, what you have is the ability to log an action. It says down here, linked actions. All you do is click log new. The action details pop up. You fill in the action as a separate document and submit that. That action will now go through into myosh and notifications will go out, and it will be listed now in your actions register as an open action for management. And once you've submitted it, you can continue with the inspection. And when you get to the end of the inspection, you can submit the inspection, and that will also go through as a separate document, but linked. So once you create a document out of any other document, and typically actions are created, corrective actions are created out of other documents, there is a link between the two, a reciprocal link. So the person receiving the action from this inspection that you've created on your phone will be able to click on the link and go and have a look at the inspection from which they were asked to do the action. And the person reviewing the inspection can click on the link to all the actions that came out of the inspection. And it's the same is true for any other module in myosh. If you log an action out of any other module, there is that reciprocal link between the two.
Jessica says that there's been an occasion where she has been halfway through an inspection, hit save to do something else, and when come back to My Activities, it is gone and can't be retrieved. Is there something she might be doing?
I'd need more information on that. If she can send some more detail in, name of a company, we can look further into that and see what it was all about.
Okay. Trina did ask about the contact number to set up the phones, and I have advised that the fastest way is to email support@myosh.com.
Yeah.
And they would do the rest. Kim asked, what is the SSO user?
That's if you are a custom client and you have single sign-on. So custom clients, a lot of them anyway, have so many personnel, they don't want to have a separate myosh login for every one of their clients or every one of their employees, as well as another login to get into their internal applications on their desktop. So what we do is we synchronize the networking logins for the company with myosh. You don't have a separate myosh login. You use the same one that you use within your company, and then you never forget. You only use that if single sign-on has been set up for your company.
George has said, we have the diary module, and at the moment we are not seeing the existing entries on our mobiles. Is there something else we need to do?
Again, I need to know whether or not this is a custom client or a classic. As with all things in classic, if we make changes to a classic environment, everybody sees the changes. If they have a custom environment, we can look into what it is they are doing and add the diary module potentially into the app for them. But we do have to see whether or not there's any functionality that's too difficult. From memory, the diary module is quite a straightforward module. I would have thought that that could be added in.
Okay, I'll ask them to do a quick email to support at myosh and find out more about that. Tom has asked, notice the QR in the top right of the menu. What is that?
Yeah, that's something that we're working on, Tom. It's not there yet. Because I'm the all-knowing guru, I get to see things that not everyone else sees. And the QR code, what that's going to enable you to do is scan QR codes from your mobile app. So at the moment, we have QR code functionality where you can download a scanner and you can walk up to someone who's walking around with a QR code badge, scan their badge and see, for example, what sort of training they've got and if they're a contractor, who they are and whether or not they should be on site. Sort of one of the things that we're planning to do is build it into myosh so that you don't go outside of the app to do that scan. It's not there yet. It's just an intent.
Craig has said, are the associated actions in inspection standard for the app or do they need to be requested?
Because it's a custom environment, they haven't been added, but I'm pretty certain that they can be with no extra charge. I think it just might be a configuration setting.
Okay. Gunter has said, is there a limit of app users for a company?
No, the limit is how many licenses you have. Everyone with a license automatically gets the app.
Okay. George, who mentioned the diary before, he said that we've now got the custom diary in that. I've asked George to email support. I'm creating an incident and logging a hazard inside the incident. A hazard is not listed in the incidents once saved. Is this normal or am I experiencing a local saving issue? It's from Ryan.
We're going to create a new incident. And so at the moment, I was unaware that hazards were even available as something that you could log from inside an incident on the app. I know that you can log action, but I didn't think hazards were there. Is this something that's been logged on? Might be something that they've specifically requested that we've done for them, but I'd be surprised.
Okay, he says on the computer, not the app.
On the computer, yeah, that's a bug. He needs to report that. What we'll need, if you want to report bugs, and this is for everybody really, is rather than just sending us an email that says something doesn't work, what would be nice would be to get a screenshot of what does work, the document number that you're experiencing the problem with, and then we can get right down to it immediately.
All right. I think that's all the questions. Ryan said thank you for that. That's very good. Have you got anything else to say, Nigel? Do we want to mention that voice-to-text functionality?
Oh, yes. That is my favourite because I'm so good at typing. Yeah, I don't know what this looks like on an Android phone or a Windows phone.
Similar.
But on an iPhone, there is the option down the bottom here to switch on the microphone so that instead of typing your immediate temporary controls in this instance, you can actually say them. You have to speak reasonably slowly and you can say things like full stop, new line. It understands those. So you can almost format what you're saying. I find this particularly interesting because of my accent. It doesn't seem to matter what I turn Siri into, whether she's South African, English, or Australian. She doesn't understand me at all. But for people who have a sort of a better accent than I do, it seems to work really, really well.
Okay. Demo this for functionality. What is the next step?
So someone, they want to trial it. So people want to trial it. Yes. Again, it depends. So if you've got a classic environment, you can actually download it and start using it. It will work. What won't work, however, is the fact that it's not built to use your matrix. Now, this is why we have to reconfigure it for organizations that are doing this retrospectively, because you would have had your own matrix uploaded. The myosh app is actually looking at a standard myosh matrix, which, I don't know, a few people do have, but a lot of customers don't. So if you actually have the myosh app, then good for you, it'll probably work. But I still would recommend that you have us look at it to make sure that it actually does what it's supposed to do. That's where that half hour comes in. Yeah, it's sort of, if you're going to do this from a custom point of view and you don't have it at the moment, then you can't just download it. What you'd have to do is ask us to send you a login to a test environment. And once you've got that test environment, you can download the app and test it in that test environment, because the app is already linked to that.
All right. Thank you, Nigel. That is all the questions. And as usual, we will send a link to this recorded webinar on a Vimeo video channel, and we'll try to answer some of those questions we couldn't answer. And the next webinar is on management reports, and that is on the 1st of August. So there's a login link on the myosh login page. Thank you, Nigel.
No problems.
Thank you to everybody for coming along today.